We have a dilemma in today's world, and that is globalism. I know many of you wanted me to do a video about this, so I'm going to kind of lay out my thoughts when it comes to globalism. Now, there's many different levels when it comes to globalism. We have economic policies for globalism, we have immigration for globalism, and then we have regulatory laws and, let's say, global consensus when it comes to society for globalism. Now, if you look at the hierarchical levels of globalism, the number one thing that matters is economics. Now, post-World War II, that's when the real globalism started. United States made a super pact. It pretty much stated anybody who teams up with us, we will guarantee the protection and safety of all your cargo around the world. Bottom line is United States has the most powerful navy imaginable, like ridiculously powerful. And so they made a deal. Use our dollar. We'll back you up when it comes to protecting your cargo and join our economic powerhouse. Now, the issue when it comes to globalism, it's not per se the very nature of globalism, is how globalism on the economic aspect has been executed. And so the issue in today's time, specifically in the circumstances that we are today, the issue in globalism is supply chain. That's number one issue when it comes to globalism, and being fragile. When you're in a globalistic system where your supply chain is primarily dependent on other nations, and we see classical examples today, our medical supplies, our technological supplies are all outsourced to China. Well, that happened in the 70s. When Kissinger went to China and made a deal. And so the whole notion is we pretty much slave labor in China. We made a deal. Well, we are the consumers and we'll get super cheap labor over there and we make everything on pennies on the dollar and we arbitrage and sell it to the Americans. And so what we have today right now, we have such an anti-fragile ecosystem where anything that happens, such as this virus, which is not a black swan event. Nassim Taleb talks about this. The virus, we knew for a very long time that we are way overdue for a viral epidemic. A true definition of a black swan event is something unforeseen, something that we couldn't even fathom happens. The virus is not a black swan event. Virus, we knew about a pandemic outbreak a long time ago, and it's not like this is the first time it happened. The last major one was the Spanish flu, much worse. So this isn't a black swan event. However, the virus, or cerveza as they call it, showed us how fragile our globalistic system is, where every single aspect of our economy is tied up in another nation. Now, this isn't a call for nationalization. This isn't a call for closing the borders. This is a call for more decentralization, and this is a call for becoming more reliable our own supply. If you look at the things that matter the most, what matters for your safety? What matters for economy to grow? Number one, food supply matters. Number two, medical matters. So let's call it the healthcare system. Drugs. A lot of drugs are being developed in India. So they're one of the biggest manufacturers in the world when it comes to drugs. I'll give you a case example today. Let's say that now it's guaranteed that like the hydroquinone, whatever it's called, is shown clinically that it works as an antiviral or whatever definition you want to have. India is the number one producer of it. Let's say all of a sudden they have a massive outbreak. We just don't know the numbers yet in India. You think they're going to ship that to us? No, they keep it for themselves. And so when we're talking about focusing back on localism, we're talking about creating a system within our geographical borders for independence and self-sufficiency. Food, healthcare, and security. These are the most important things when it comes for the security of a nation. And I would even want to take a step a little bit back because that's on the nation level when it comes to localism. I'm a big fan of localism when it comes to decentralized city-states because my dream when it comes to localism is this. Imagine having many different city-states all across a nation, and each city-state has their own policies, both economic policies, tax policies, healthcare policies, all the policies. They have to compete against each other, very similar to Switzerland. And so let's say this virus came today. One city state in the West Coast can make all their rules up. They can say, hey, we're going to close up quicker. We're going to do this. And the most beautiful thing about city states, it protects their citizens. And so basically, when you have these city states, you have a focus on your immediate populace. You want to control the food supply. You want to control the economic maturity of your fucking geolocation. And this is why I'm not a fan of globalism whatsoever. It's actually a fraud. You and I really don't benefit from globalism whatsoever. It's not good for our economy, and it's not good for our general well-being. Now, this is not to say that we don't do importing, exporting. No. But what I'm saying is we need to bring back the things that guarantee the safety of a nation. We need to bring back, like I said, number one, our food supply. Number two, healthcare. So everything that falls underneath healthcare. And number three, technology. So industries, it can be silicon chips, so manufacturing when it comes to technological hardware devices, any of the hardware categories. These are the fundamental building blocks of a society, but yet we've outsourced this to China and India due to the almighty dollar and certain tax treaties that we had because it's much cheaper. But now we're realizing that this isn't it. This isn't it, ladies and gentlemen. And so hopefully this is a wake-up call for everybody out there to focus more on localism. How can we design better small cities out there, intentional communities out there where we have our own food supply, we have a very good healthcare system, and we have a very good security industry, meaning technology and physical security as well. And so we will see. We will see what happens with this globalism as of late. And this isn't a call for xenophobia. This isn't a call for closed borders. This is a call for common sense. Absolute common sense. It's time that we start pushing our governments for better policies. It's time for us as a society to vote better people in. Because the reality is the people that we have voted in, they're incompetent. We have been scammed for the last 40, 50 years with the most incompetent leadership possible. And the only fault is our fault because we accepted it. We just sat back and like, okay, these are candidates and we can't really do much about it. Like think about the States. Joe Biden? Come on. Even here in Canada, like really, like who's our candidates? Who's taking in? You know what we need? We need an upgrade. We need a scientific, technological, combined. We need somebody that cares about science. We need somebody that cares about economy. We need somebody that cares about like real, like just common sense. If you like literally fucking common sense, like it hurts my head. Like, cause remember politicians, they're not wise. They're politicians. They're bureaucrats. They play the Machiavellian game of deceiving people for votes. That's the whole notion of it. I'm in there for smokes and mirrors. It's theater, and the theater is to get votes. And so listen, to summarize this, because I don't want to kind of ramble off too much, but like, I really believe that there's going to be massive opportunities in the next couple of years because we're going to hit a huge recession, that if we can start focusing on localism, so local food supply, local health, anything local, like if we can bring industries back, it's going to pay dividends in the future, like a massive dividends. And so I'll leave it at that, guys. If you have any questions for me, leave a comment below this video, subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace out.